Right now, very pleased to have with us on the program from Boston, Massachusetts, attorney and retired Marine Dave Bruce. Dave, thank you so much, sir, for joining us tonight.
Thanks for having me on.
Absolutely. When I heard about what you were doing up there in Boston trying to help your a fellow retired Marine, Ryan Jerome, I knew that I wanted to talk with you. Ryan Jerome, a guy, former Marine gunner, who's now a jeweler in Indiana. He went to New York City to try to sell some gold. He got some erroneous information on a website that he looked at before he left, thought that there was reciprocity, thought that he could legally carry his concealed firearm in New York City. When he saw a no guns allowed sign at the Empire State Building, he tried to do the right thing and tried to ask if he could store that gun somewhere. Now he's looking at anywhere from 3.5 to 15 years behind bars. And what are you doing right now, Dave, to try to help him?
Well, what I'm doing now, I'm on that website I've been on for 5 years now, just another member. It's leatherneck.com. I think it's the biggest Marine Corps website in the country. And I'm organizing a letter writing campaign, actually an email campaign. And on the site, I give out the email special account that I set up just for this purpose. And what I do is to receive these letters, emails, and filter out the sometimes I have to edit them, but most of the time I don't. And I forward them on to the police commissioner, the mayor, and especially the Manhattan DA.
Cy Vance, because
right.
it's ultimately going to be the DA's decision.
True.
I mean, we can complain about what the laws are in New York City, and we could try to change them, but as far as Mr. Jerome goes, it's ultimately going to be up to the district attorney as to whether or not he chooses to prosecute.
Very true. Yeah, that is true. What I do, though, is every email I forward to him, I also send the same thing for what it's worth to the commissioner anyway, and also to the mayor, because the mayor is the one that went to the legislature with the 3.5-year minimum mandatory idea. So, yeah, this is sort of like a CC to him in a way.
Right. You know, it's inspiring, I got to say, Dave, to see you and your fellow Marines stand up for a brother in arms here. And how many emails have you forwarded on at this point?
Oh, maybe 50 or 60 or more. I probably only had to delete, just outright delete, probably 10.
Yeah.
But 50, 60, 70, they've all gone on their way after I see what's going on, see what the email says, and then they're on their way. This is just in probably a couple of weeks old. Hasn't been all that long. I first read about the story on January 3rd, so it hasn't been all that long.
No, it really hasn't been. I mean, it was, I guess, right before Christmas when this happened. And, Mr. Jerome had gone to the city to sell some gold. The price of gold dropped while he was there. He wanted to hang on for a couple days and see if he could make, a little bit extra money. As it turns out, the hotel safe was full, so he had to carry his gold around with him. And when you're carrying around, roughly $15,000 worth of gold, you probably want to be able to protect yourself. And again, Mr. Jerome thought that he had reciprocity. He had apparently looked at a website before he left and thought that he was obeying the law. This is a horrible thing to have happen to anybody. But certainly somebody who was trying to comply with the law thought that they were doing exactly what they were supposed to do.
Yes, I'm very familiar with the mandatory minimum sentencing concept. I do all criminal law, all in the inner city Boston courts, and I see this stuff firsthand. And when I first read the story, I thought, well, if Ryan Jerome had any bad intent at all, why even bother checking the website? You just take the gun to New York and take your chances. And secondly, I've never heard of any criminals checking the laws of other jurisdictions prior to going there. That's mostly unheard of. They just don't care.
Right.
But he took the time to do that. And as you said, he sought to check his gun in the Empire State Building. Why? To be sure he complied with the law. He must have had it in his mind that he ought to check this out. He ought to see if he probably had some instinct that the gun wouldn't be allowed in there, and there must be a place to check it. I mean, similar to when you are licensed to carry firearms and you're going into a courthouse, you ask where you can check your gun. Well, probably with the same intent to do the right thing, he approached them, which, again, in the criminal world that I'm familiar with, I've never heard of a criminal or a common street thug seeking to check any firearm with anyone.
Well, exactly right.
So that's the first.
Yeah. So clearly it's people like Mr. Jerome that we need to be worried about on the streets of New York.
Yeah, it's I would imagine the reason he sought to check it was because of respect for the law, quite ironically.
Exactly.
If he had any bad intent, the last thing he would do would be to walk up and ask about. I mean, would a criminal ask where to check a firearm? I don't think so. So we have an honest mistake by a Marine veteran, and the case should be dismissed, like half of the other cases are in New York City that are in fact dismissed. And I happened to see a story today about a Long Island ex-prosecutor.
Yeah.
And I sort of made up my own chart as I was reading the article. And there's a lot of things that don't make sense. I mean, Ryan's in a totally different position, but because he doesn't have a New York permit, he's the one facing the possibility of these mandatory sentences, whereas she has the permit, and although she's firing the gun, and still there's no felony charges coming because she was properly licensed to have one. He has a license too, but it's from Indiana, so it's no good in New York City.
Well, yeah, and this is unfortunately, I think, part of the problem here is that we have the national right to carry reciprocity legislation that's passed the House of Representatives. It's been vociferously opposed by Mayor Bloomberg. He's been one of the fiercest critics of a right to carry reciprocity, and I think that he has been very pushy about ensuring that the DA goes after people like Mr. Jerome. And the 39-year-old nurse Meredith Graves, who was arrested at the World Trade Center for a very similar situation. I think he wants to see the book thrown at these individuals.
Well, the problem is they stand side by side, a common street thug who has no intention of doing anything but evil deeds and all the criminal intent in the world. And these two people, I mean, Ryan Jerome doesn't have what they call mens rea, the guilty mind that has been part of criminal law for years and years and decades and centuries. But with these strict liability laws, it's irrelevant. The only question is, did he knowingly possess a firearm on the streets of New York? And that's it. They don't care about any good intent or the lack of criminal intent, or the fact that he was acting responsibly with a firearm that he brought from out of state. I don't know. There's just something wrong with putting him in the same category. I'll tell you, when I first read about this case, the first thing that popped into my mind was the word Marine, naturally. You know how we are. We don't leave Marines behind on the battlefield, and we don't leave them behind in a courtroom battle either. So it's the same principle operating. The second thing I thought of was commercial fishermen, how they throw the lines out, the nets, and they're fishing for tuna, and they catch tuna, but they also catch everything else that the ocean has to offer in that area. Ryan Jerome's caught up in the same type of net with the common street criminals, and he's treated the same way because he's in the net, and that's a shame. I mean, that's you know the expression, the law is blind, but I didn't know it was that blind. I mean, that's really a terrible injustice, and that's what we're trying to correct here. I mean, I can't make these people dismiss the case, but I can just draw their attention to it and just plead with them, ask them to do the right thing, and treat this person like a Marine veteran that he is, who made an honest mistake. I don't know what New York City expects to gain by incarcerating Ryan Jerome, or whether that will make the New York City streets safer, or whether New York citizens will feel safer with people like Ryan off the streets, or if they want to deter him from committing other criminal acts in the future. I don't know. But they need to make an example of him. Apparently, holding him up is what happens to a Marine veteran who makes an honest mistake. What's astounding to me is that they apparently think so little of a law-abiding citizen who makes an honest mistake, and that's what I find disturbing. And that's what hit me with the article in the New York Post that I read on that Leatherneck.com site. Maybe 2 hours later, I determined to try to do something about this, and that's how I got started.
Well, listen, Dave, again, I can't thank you enough for doing what you're doing and to try to raise attention about Mr. Jerome's case. I hope that your efforts have an impact, and I certainly know that Ryan Jerome is aware of him, and he is very appreciative of the support that you're giving him.
Well, it's our pleasure. Marines stick together, you know that, and actually the whole world knows that already before this case came along. So we're just all I'm doing is just trying to ask the New York City officials to do the right thing in this case and cut this kid a break. That's all I'm doing.
Dave Bruce, attorney in Boston, Massachusetts, and a retired Marine. Semper Fi. Dave, thank you so much, sir, for coming on the program, and I hope we can do this again soon.
Thank you, sir. I appreciate it.